For J.O. De La Rey, this is T-Pose Holmgren with the Europa Report for the week ending May 11th, 2018, covering the ongoing non-white invasion of the European continent. This week we start in England, a story as American as apple pie. Britain has been told to scrap its racialized war on youth violence after an investigation accused the nation of breaching human rights laws with police use of anti-gang databases featuring predominantly black male suspects. Amnesty International called on the government to urgently review the Metropolitan Police's gangs matrix and set up a public inquiry after it found that black men constituted 78% of the 3,500 people registered on the monitoring database. There is clearly a huge problem with the knife crime violence at the moment in London, but the gangs matrix is not the answer, said NGO's UK director Kate Allen, asserting that the list is part of an unhelpful and racialized focus on the concept of gangs. The mayor of London needs to dismantle the matrix unless he can bring it in line with the international human rights standards, she said. After giving Germany a week off, the beatings resume. Get your meme detectors out, this one is all too perfect. More than 56% of the crimes in German towns are committed by asylum seekers. Regional police statistics show that 56.9% of crime in the German town Sigmaringen was committed by asylum seekers last year. The figures reflect real crimes as offenses of breaking migration laws were excluded, the newspaper Schwäbische reports. Crime, especially drug-related crimes, up 70%, and shoplifting, up 45%, have risen sharply due to migrant criminality, but more serious crimes increased significantly as well, such as street crimes, up 33%, assault, 40%, and sexual offenses, 15%. Therefore, the region's Ministry of the Interior has now developed a security plan for Sigmaringen, a special group of investigators. The group recently arrested 21 multiple offenders among the asylum seekers. The massive public consumption of alcohol by some asylum seekers, especially at the station, angers the local residents. As a result, Mayor Scharrer has called for compulsory prevention courses for asylum seekers who have repeatedly been apprehended for alcohol abuse. But, according to the mayor, there are limits as well. We have prevention courses, but an asylum seeker cannot be forced to do this any more than a citizen of Sigmaringen. They are not internees here. Here's one from the Of Course files. Despite German federal government pushing for asylum seekers to voluntarily return to their countries of origin, several migrants have complained that the German bureaucracy has prevented them from returning at all. One of the migrants who has complained about Germany's bureaucrats is Syrian asylum seeker Jiwan Bozkurt, who came to Germany at the height of the migrant crisis in 2015. Despite wanting to return to Syria to rejoin his family, his request to travel to Syria was rejected because bureaucrats believed his passport may have been forged by the Islamic State terror group, German broadcaster MDR reports. Bozkurt claims that he has attempted to correct this issue by submitting identification documents to the State Criminal Police Office in Saxony-Anhalt, where he currently lives. Due to bureaucratic delays, he claims to not have received a decision despite meeting with immigration officials on 20 separate occasions. According to the LKA, which is the abbreviation for the State Criminal Police Office, the papers had been checked and sent back to the immigration officials but still had not been processed. And finally, another serving of the Cologne Special. Germany's Rhine in Flames festival has been overshadowed by sex attacks, local media says. After festival's fireworks, several sexual assaults were reported to the police. Police investigated several sexual assaults which occurred over the weekend. 3 sexual offenses were reported to the police Saturday night. 1 was proven false. Police continued to investigate several sexual offenses on Monday that had been reported. An 18-year-old was sexually assaulted in the queue for the toilets. A similar attack is said to have occurred in front of the main stage. The woman, who was with a group of 8, 2 of which were women, was isolated and groped. Both cases are still under investigation by police. Search-relevant descriptions are currently not available, said this police spokesman Simon Roth. Police were increasingly called upon to intervene throughout the night. By 2:30 a.m., a total of 8 people had been taken into custody. In addition to personal injury, police reports many insults and theft offenses. In total, emergency services had to operate 195 cases. I want you to recall our lead story from England as you listen to the following. The Swedish Criminal Statistics Agency, BRA, has announced it will be considering an in-depth study on the relationship between immigration and crime, claiming there has been a recent surge in demand for data on the subject. The agency made the announcement last week, saying that the recent political climate has made them reconsider publishing data on the relationship between migration and crime for the first time in over a decade. According to the agency, previous studies had shown a larger proportion of foreign-born people appear to be suspects as compared to the proportion of native-born. The overwhelming majority of foreigners have not been suspected of crimes, and they added they did not consider another study to yield and fresh data on the subject. BRA reiterated previous claims that the gathering of ethnic and migration background data of suspects was not part of their mission and that neither the government nor the judiciary had requested any new studies on the subject. It can now be noted that the demand and social debate on updated information on the relationship between crimes on the one hand and dissent and migration on the other hand is so strong that the authority needs to consider the possibilities again, the agency said. And now to the Mediterranean front lines, where Italy fights back and is immediately attacked. Italy is close to the formation of a Eurosceptic Italy First government. League leader Matteo Salvini and the Five-Star Movement leader Luigi Di Maio said Thursday that they were making progress in talks on the formation of a new government after meeting at the lower house. Significant steps forward have been made in the composition of the executive and the premier in view of a constructive collaboration between the parties with the aim of deciding everything in a short period of time to give a response and a political government to the country as soon as possible, a joint statement said. The League and the Five-Star Movement have asked President Sergio Mattarella for more time for their talks for a possible agreement to form a new government, sources said Thursday. They have asked to be allowed to continue negotiations at least until Sunday, which means developments could emerge on Monday, the sources also said. And how does the EU feel about Italians asking to take their own side? The European Commission has slammed Italian efforts to clamp down on open borders, NGOs ferrying people to Europe, as deplorable, insisting the nation should prioritize helping migrants. Brussels' appeal came amidst a 3-day standoff which saw people stranded at sea for 3 days while activists complained and authorities in Italy were preventing them from delivering migrants into Europe. While it eventually gave permission to the boat of 105 migrants to dock on Tuesday night, the Italian government had previously issued a statement saying the Libyan Coast Guard had assumed coordination of the rescue, but that Proactiva Open Borders had proceeded autonomously with the rescue, considering the situation to be critical. Responding to the standoff, Commission spokesman Natasha Berthold told Italy that the priority is to help the migrants, stating, "It is with the spirit that we launch an appeal to both Italian and British authorities for a quick solution so that migrants can land safely as soon as possible." European ships, including Italian ones, act in the full respect of international law and according to the principle of non-rejections. They never take migrants back to Libya or third countries, she added. Let's close out east with 2 from Hungary. It worked in Denmark. It can work in Hungary. Hungary wants to encourage childbirth. Anyone wishing to raise children should be able to do so. The government's policies must ensure all conditions to facilitate that anyone wishing to raise children should be able to do so, Gergely Gulyas, ruling Fidesz party MP for Budapest's 12th district, told an event organized by family organization Fizak ahead of Mother's Day. Gulyas insisted that the government has so far been working to take pro-family measures and said that such endeavors would continue. Fizak founder Nora Kirali welcomed that families are in the focus of government measures, such as extending family benefits to more people and increasing those benefits, as well as providing assistance to Forex debtors and holders of student loans. And finally, as usual, Orban versus the world. Quote, "The era of liberal democracy is over. Hungary will continue to oppose mandatory migrant quotas, stand up for Europe's Christian culture, and fight to protect its borders," Prime Minister Viktor Orban said in his inaugural address to Parliament on Thursday. The Prime Minister discussed sovereignty, demography, and economy too in his speech. Hungary's new parliament re-elected Viktor Orban, the leader of the election-winning Fidesz party, as Prime Minister. Orban, who is embarking on his 4th term in office, was selected with 134 votes in favor and 28 against. After the election, Orban took his oath of office. Quote, "Thousands of paid activists, bureaucrats, and politicians are working in Brussels today to have migration declared a basic human right. This is why they want to take away our right to decide for ourselves whom to take in." Orban said in his government wants a strong Europe, peace, and to reach mutually beneficial agreements with the European Union. Now that I've taken my oath, I reaffirm to every single member of the nation, all 15 million Hungarians, that all my actions will be dedicated to the service of our nation and our country, the Hungarian people, Hungarian interests, and Christian values. Orban pledged to govern a sovereign Hungarian state of free Hungarians. We must live with the confidence and dignity of a country that understands that Hungarians have given more to the world than which they have received. The era of liberal democracy is over. Orban said Hungary was in the right constellation, adding that his government was thinking in terms of planning for the next 12 years. Hungary's case has been won. Everything needed for great plans ahead has already come together. Hungarians want a government that is worthy of their future. This encourages us, this entitles us, to make plans not only for the next 4 years, but for the next 10 years too. Indeed, we should think in terms of 12 years. Orban noted that his governing alliance holds 2/3 majority in parliament, but he vowed to serve the 3/3. The homeland cannot be in opposition with itself because it vastly transcends the parties. And that was all for this week. The Europa Report